Tech Cocktail Sessions, educational and inspirational talks from experienced startup founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders.
So, how are you doing, Justin?
Awesome.
All right, tell us a little bit about Local Motors for those of you in the audience that may not know what it is.
Can you show of hands how many people have heard of Local Motors? Oh,
Okay,
wow. That makes
Local
me
Motors.
feel great. So Local Motors, for those who haven't heard, we empower anybody to design, build, and sell the world's coolest machines. We do this in two ways, through something we call co-creation, which is an online portal where you can come in and share your ideas and your expertise and contribute to a team that's developing something. And then we do it through micro-manufacturing, which for us is a network of small, what we call micro-factories, where you come and build those products. Our community is made up of makers, enthusiasts, engineers, designers. Some of them are professional, some of them are hobbyists. And others just are excited about products that might be in their driveway or in their basement in the near future and want to participate in the process. We are now leaving the vehicular space as our sole focus as we do partnerships with firms like GE. And it's an amazing thing to see these large multinational firms that have such an impact on our daily lives, whether we know it or not. Starting to look back to the crowd, look back to everybody in this room to say, what do you know that we need to know, as well as what do you want? And I think with our recent partnership announcement, there's going to be a lot more of that give and take. So we're excited about it.
Awesome. So we'll talk a little bit about the partnership in a second, but you and I met in Vegas, right? Like
we did, so we shouldn't tell that story.
Okay. Not that kind of Vegas. Downtown. So you spoke at one of our events, and you guys have a factory, a micro factory down there.
We do.
Where else do you have factories like that?
So our first two microfactories are Phoenix, which is our headquarters, where we built the Rally Fighter, which was a vehicle that was designed and developed for that region, built there. Vegas was our second, and we will be announcing two more openings in the coming weeks.
Oh, exciting. Any hints?
No hints.
Oh.
No hints today, but stay tuned.
Sorry, I tried.
And we plan to have 50 microfactories over the next 5 years.
50?
So there are about 35 that are in some stage of very serious negotiation.
Okay, so what does that mean, just so people get an idea? What is a microfactory?
So a microfactory is somewhere that can produce, if it's a car, it's between 200 and 2,000 units a year.
Wow.
And they're made to order. So we don't have inventory. You come in and we might have one of them, and then you come, if you want one, and you help us build it the next day or the next weekend. But you participate in the process, and then as you own that machine, you hopefully will continue to participate and say, this is what I've done to retrofit it or to put something cool on it, and the community interacts, and what you find is no two machines we have yet built, vehicles, in this case the Rally Fighter, are the same, because they're always better from the feedback that you get that the people before you have given.
Okay, and then so you're not just making Rally Fighters, you've also you've built recently a bike, right?
We crowdfunded an electric and motorized bicycle.
How did that go?
It's a motorized bicycle that's electric and gas.
How did that crowdfund?
You great.
Kickstarter?
No, we didn't use Kickstarter.
I mean?
We use.
What did you use?
Did you use
the internet?
We did use it. We did use
What
the
did you
internet.
use? Your own platform?
No, yeah, we used our site and we plugged. There's an API.
They know.
Sorry?
Crowdtilt?
We used CrowdTilt.
CrowdTilt.
There you go.
Yes, there you go.
There you go. Which is it's one of the first APIs that you can plug into your.
Oh, great.
Thank you for that. I was having a bit of a mental block.
So that went well. You guys launched off of that platform,
and we're building those in Vegas.
Oh, you are. Okay. Cool. What other types of things are you jumping into? Should we wait and talk about that later?
Sure.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about it. You're building a 3D car, right? A 3D printed car.
We just announced that we will be 3D printing the first production vehicle, which happens to be an electric vehicle, at IMTS 2014, which is the International Manufacturing Trade Show in Chicago in September. I believe.
Amazing.
September, October.
How big is that printer?
It's big. And you'll see what we're using there. It's in partnership with Oak Ridge National Lab in Knoxville, and their manufacturing demonstration facility, and it's an exciting project with a lot of implications for the industrial.
So that's coming up soon. When is that? It's what?
That's September. That we'll print that.
Very cool.
At the show live, so you can come watch if you're from Chicago or want to visit.
Okay, so what about like automakers, like folks in Detroit and other places? Like, how do they interact? Like, should they be crowdsourcing like you guys are? Or do you guys
a lot of them are. I mean, we've been hired by a number of the automakers for different projects. BMW, Peterbilt trucks, the big Class 8 trucks you see on the road, and others. Because what they find is we're not competitive to them. We're going to be a part of the mix, and they're able to do research and development and actually get new products out about 100 times cheaper and 10 times faster than they currently do, and that's by people like you participating in the process.
Okay. And then what other industries, and we're going to talk about kitchen appliances here in a minute, but what other industries do you see are ripe for crowdsourcing?
I mean, you're seeing it play out in a lot of industries. In particular, it started in the digital to digital space. So if you need to do a logo, you could get a bunch of artists to try to develop your logo and then pick the one that you liked. And you saw it go T-shirts with threadless. Right. And it's sort of art that then gets printed on a T-shirt. We've really just in the last few years started to see this bytes to bits movement, or the
even Nike, right? Like they have ID and you can make shoes.
Yep. Well.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's sort of crowdsourcing.
Yeah.
It's customization.
Right.
But it's any industry where there's expertise that doesn't exist under your roof. It's certainly a candidate for lower cost and more efficient development.
Let's talk about cars again, since that's what you started with.
Well, it's vehicles of all sorts, right? So it could be, we've done skateboards and bicycles.
You didn't mention that earlier. What other things have you been up to?
All kinds of things.
Okay. Coffee? Do you make coffee? You are.
We actually have great coffee. Yeah. Come to our Vegas microfactory. We do cold brewed coffee. Wow. Our CFO, it's his pet project. He loves coffee.
So does Justin. Where's he at? There he is. Yeah. Okay, so actually wanted to put your futurist hat on for a second. Where do you see like vehicles, cars could be one of them going? Because you are working in the space that you're seeing crowdsourced designs, things like that.
Yeah, well, my personal hope is that you're going to see them be much more localized. And so what we as a platform and a company, especially in our vehicular focus to begin with, look to enable is vehicles built locally for a local use case. And so the people that are driving them participate in building them, and then they're using fuels that are generated locally as well. And I sort of, in my past career, thought of this as the island power type theory, which is right now we're using so many resources to move large products or pieces of products around the world, and that uses all this fuel, et cetera, but there are a lot of places in the world that have a lot of sun or a lot of wind. And you don't have to make that about an entire East Coast if you have vehicles. If you can change the demand side, that's the hard side to change as much as the supply side.
Any flying cars in there? Have you seen them?
I saw that hoax on CNN, or was it not a hoax? CNN.com a while ago.
I was being serious.
But I'm being serious too. Like we were promised the Jetsons, and we still have the Flintstones.
Even Back to the Future, right? Like that already happened, and it didn't happen yet.
And I still am looking for my DeLorean.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, if it's going to happen, it's at localmotors.com.
Okay. There you go. All right. So let's just talk a little bit more about your personal past. Like, you got some views on different things that I want to talk about. So you worked with Richard Branson.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about that.
A lot of people work for Richard Branson. So I wasn't the only person working for Richard Branson.
So you were the only one.
Yeah, but it was definitely a fantastic experience, and he's certainly a special. He's an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. That might be lingo not to use, but he really is. I learned a lot in that experience.
All right, one more question, then we'll dive in. We'll talk about what you guys are working on together. East Coast versus West Coast, which is more supportive of entrepreneurship?
That's a loaded question. And
East Coast,
I was educated on the East Coast, and I grew up on the East Coast, and I've spent a little bit of time on the West Coast. I'd say they support very, very different types of entrepreneurship. There are, and fundamentally, if we're going to talk about how to fund entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
the risk capital market is somewhat broken in this country. There's great venture capitalists out there, but they're taking bets on a very narrow band.
And you used to be an investment banker, right?
I was an investment banker, and then I had a hedge fund.
Right. So you've got a little bit of experience in that realm.
Yeah, but venture is very different.
Right.
But I had a lot of experience looking at companies, and what you find is a lot of the big return that venture capitalists have seen for the last decade or a couple decades has been in non-hardware focused companies, and that's okay. There's been a lot of wealth creation for everybody as it relates to that.
Everybody hit it off, and next thing we knew was our chief says we need to reinvent manufacturing. I think everyone would agree. Wouldn't it be great if we could bring not only manufacturing back, but bring back manufacturing so it's like cool again, to the point of like we used to be able to build a plane, design and build a plane in a year. I mean, none of us can imagine this, but something we take for granted, like electricity. If you go read the history books, the first house that got electricity in any town was like it's probably to this day still a landmark. Now probably nobody goes to visit it anymore, but they used to throw parties and all the kids in town would turn up when they were going to light, turn on the lights in the house. So manufacturing was cool, and it's all faded into the background because it's so good. So we want to make it cool. We want to make ourselves successful. There's a group, not just me. There's a whole bunch of us that are very passionate about innovation. We got talking to Jay in the Local Motors crowd and said, you know what? We really don't want to be in the car business. I said, but we're in lots of other businesses. So we, through a series of meetings, got our head together and proud to announce just literally a couple of weeks ago, we announced this awesome commercial partnership. We formed a new community. These are all downstairs. I want you to all go get one. It's called First Build. Okay, and I want you to sign up for the community. It's a crowdsourced community where we're going to crowdsource. Our first project is going to be, we want to reinvent the world of home appliances. So bigger than a consumer item, but smaller, let's say, than a jet engine that's got 12,000 parts and 2,000 patents. And so we want to reinvent how you're going to do things in the kitchen. And we're going to use the skills that they developed on the community to bring people in. So it won't be car enthusiasts, but it'll be cooking enthusiasts. Let's say if we're going to reinvent stoves, and we're going to merge it with the GE engineers in the community. We've got a couple of folks in here who can maybe raise their hand. Some of the GE folks who are involved. We got a couple of the folks here. These guys have their cool First Build shirts on already. I hope you can get to meet them at cocktails.
So the space here is available too for the rest of the next couple weeks, where they're literally like, if you want to decide, you figure out a way to design something around the refrigerator, you could go do that. And they saw somebody earlier literally cutting the fridge open. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
So we got 3 or 4 fridges downstairs. If you ever wanted to tinker with a refrigerator, you can come and cut ours up, so you don't have to cut your own up. Okay?
That's a great idea, actually.
And go try that out, and we're going to take that idea with these guys' expertise. And I'd love to hear, just from your I'd love to know what got you and Jay interested in saying, this is so crazy. Little locomotive startup might actually go do a partnership with big old GE.
Well, we looked you up on the internet and found out who you were, and that said we might take this meeting. But no, really, there was with when you think about the name General Electric, you wouldn't think that they make all the things that they make, and people talk about local motors, and for us there was just the way local motors got started and sort of this process of innovation and focus on innovation that really is at the heart of, since the beginning at GE, was such a natural fit for us. And when we look at our community, I think a big part of the reason, besides that Jay was a car nut, car enthusiast, that we built it to focus on vehicles at the beginning was because that's one of the main things that can draw engineers and makers and designers together. I mean, if you're going to think of one thing that they might not all love, but more of them love that one thing than any other one thing. And so what we find is a lot of people we work with today who are engineers and designers have the same skill sets that the First Build community is going to look for. So there may be a lot of crossover, and it's going to be exciting. I think that something we haven't touched on that's really important is we're moving into this age that's called, people have coined lots of terms for it, but if it is the third industrial revolution, which I believe it is, a lot of it is about the ability for machines that make to communicate using data around the world. So if you were to come up with a good idea online today, in the past, you'd have to have in the past you couldn't be online, but you'd have an apprentice that your trade would pass down to over time. Or you'd have to teach someone for many years to do it like you do it. But today, with CAD data and being able to send data directly to a machine that's going to, through additive or subtractive manufacturing, make your good, means that you can be doing this anywhere in the world. Just like I could print to a printer that's in Tokyo.
Right.
And so that is going to enable anybody.
Plan once, print.
Right. So when GE needs something that, in the future, I'm not trying to speak for GE, but any big company, when they need something in the future, they're going to be able to hopefully find the right idea in any corner of the world and make it in any number of places very quickly.
So this concept of, the way we like to think about it is the worlds of digital and physical are merging.
Yeah.
So all the equipment maybe in our minds that we think about, way back in the first industrial revolution, these big iron things with steel and then diesel and stuff like that. So that's big. That's big iron. Now we're all digital. We all can take out our iPhones or our Galaxies and whatever, and we're all digitally savvy. Well, but what happens when they come together? And that's the thing. That's why we, quite frankly, entered into this partnership. Is we think Local Motors, to their credits, at this really cool intersection. And so what we're going to do is get the community to come in from wherever the community is in the world. Yeah. So we want foodies, and we want designers, and we want people that understand gas, and we want people that understand electricity, and we want mechanical engineers, and guys that can bend steel, and ladies that know how to do whatever we need from the components. Get the community to crowdsource it in. Then we're going to put up, not a huge GE-sized factory, we're going to put up a micro factory, probably not a whole lot bigger than this. And we'll actually start making the stuff and selling the stuff. If you just like Justin's saying, if you're a maker and you figure out the coolest way to make the refrigerator that you want, we'll make as many as people want to buy in that micro factory.
Awesome.
So the idea of prototyping can come real quick. Look, again, digital. How easy is to prototype a website? I mean, like that, a new social media campaign. We do that all in an afternoon.
Right.
But when the physical comes together, there's this whole degree of complexity. But if you can crack that code, you really can't change the world.
And it's critical. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's critical to mention that the second industrial revolution, sort of, a lot of people mention Henry Ford, brought in this, production lines and scale, which required a lot of capital. And so you'd have to build a huge factory, and then you'd have to amortize that cost over a long time by making a lot of those products. And so what this digital capability is enabling is to make one thing for one person. And that changes the game. You don't have to, GE's not going to have to invest billions of dollars for a great product. They can try 10 that we as consumers say, yes, no, and then make an investment if they want to. But you'll see that. I think it's leadership that GE's shown that you'll see happen in industries around the world.
Awesome. One more point before we open up to questions. So have your questions ready. We've got mics on both sides, and we've got the Twitter out there and online if you have it. First build, there's going to be a physical location. Is that right?
There's going to be a physical location.
Just wanted to make sure. Where is that going to be?
I can't announce where it's going to be, but it will be in the U.S.
Okay.
And
so
we're finalizing the location right now, and it will be in the spirit of this partnership. It will be staffed by 50% GE employees, 50% Local Motors employees. Cool. They will be at our and we'll be there a lot, and it will be our first build community. It will be a real micro factory. It will be what we hope is this third industrial revolution, where digital and physical come together. But I'm not trying to be coy. We just can't announce the sites.
No. So they can sign up and find out.
But if you join First Build now, when we do announce, which is like 30, maybe 45 days away, not only you'll be in the community, but you'll get hey, we're up live, let's go. We want to start making stuff.
Very cool. Excellent. So let's lead into some questions. Who's got the first one? There's one over here. And I'm going to start looking
Mine is just, I want you to finish your sentence on, you said venture capitalists don't have the ability to, and it was something you left off.
I don't remember the exact sentence, but I probably realized that there were some venture capitalists in the room.
And you might be raising funding.
But the,
You said kind of like you were hamstrung or something.
No. So coming from an investment background, I've met with a lot of venture capitalists in trying to capitalize a hardware business.
Right.
And I've rarely met a venture capitalist who has ever, as a profession, been in the making business of an actual physical product. That I've met them. They do exist, and that doesn't mean that doesn't make them less intelligent.
But they are few.
But they are few, and so there is a hole in this country and frankly, well, around the world for risk capital at the maker level,
Right.
and there's more of it. You're seeing Jawbone and MakerBot and people getting funding. So I'm not saying venture capitalists are the worst, and
No.
I'm just saying that we need to start investing in the maker.
Right.
And
Is that
then
why?
a quick add-on to that, a colleague of mine now runs GE Ventures, which is specifically to make
For that.
investments in startups that we see that are in the maker community that can help us in the physical manufacturing world.
Right. Excellent. All right. Next question.
So there's so platforms like GitHub, so it make it really easy for software. You can download and you can upload and you can work on it together because there's version control and everyone has the latest, but there's not really a GitHub or a version control for mechanical blueprints because it's not like one standard. Right. So is there any thought into building that? Or a thought into building where you can download and upload, and people can collaborate a little bit better and they have the latest version and it's all like one standard version, right? So it's like they're working on one software platform, they can work on it, or language, they can work on it together, but my blueprints are in X and yours are in Y, and they're not really mixed together.
It's a great question. We've worked with Autodesk and Siemens and Dassault Systems and all the, a number of the big makers of CAD software about this very issue. And you want people to be able to, first there's an issue, by the way, of communicating from your software to a machine. A lot of the machines don't read some of the software out there. Something that Local Motors did, and I don't want to talk too much about it, with one of the big CAD companies was offer the first $10 a month professional CAD or $20 a month professional CAD, which is a $7,000 piece of software. So we're trying to democratize, and then $1,000 or $2,000 a year to keep it upgraded. So we're trying to democratize it. I think your idea is right, and what you're saying is yes, that needs to happen. But we're trying to use the tools that are out there today to at least get those products to people who are novices or retired or hobbyists where they can't afford the professional CAD anymore, many of them. So we're trying to level the playing field first, and then as this market develops, I think that's the natural way for this to go.
All right. Next question. I'm still looking on Twitter too. If you want to be more anonymous.
Good evening. I have a question specific about microfactories and cars. Do you envision a point at which Local Motors cars can rival Morgan or any of the other custom-built cars? And maybe this speaks potentially to a larger market and to other things that can be micro-manufactured. But as we look at customizing cars, and there's an entire industry of automobiles that are customized and built one at a time, even potentially Bentley and Rolls-Royce. But is there a point at which Local Motors can customize an automobile enough where it can compete with a Morgan or TVR or any other manufacturers?
I'm not sure. You might need to clarify because we're not a custom car manufacturer. We're a small volume car manufacturer, and we make we will make a lot of different models. There's about 100,000 different models being developed on our site, and primarily we want to build models for specific regions. So I hear what you're saying. We think. We just don't think of ourselves as a custom car company. So I think you're right. I think mass customization, like a Nike ID for vehicles with a viewer where you're spinning it around, and you can do that with outside of our car right now. My dream and vision is that you'll be able to choose your powertrain and choose the tires you want on it too.
So is that the future, I guess, then of
I think that is part of our future. I think that's where everybody will go as the cost of production continues to go down.
I'd actually propose that we're looking at it from another angle. We see mass customization as being one of the benefits, but quite honestly, we see the ability to rapidly innovate and prototype as being way more important. Like, we don't know what the next generation of anything is going to look like, so the ability to get it crowdsourced through the crowd bring together all the components of whatever it is you're making. So we're going to start today, at least in our case, with refrigerators and stoves, and I hope we're moving to MRI machines and CAT scans and power generators and jet engines tomorrow. And oh, by the way, we will. So, you know, getting quicker turnaround to the whatever the generation is, we see that as a huge advantage. And then, quite frankly, the second big benefit we see is the localization of it. So, you know, true case, we make locomotives, which is another one of our $10 billion. We make 80% of the world's locomotives for freight. So an axle snaps in the middle of, you name it, in the middle of China, someplace. And if that axle is made in either Erie, Pennsylvania or Fort Worth, Texas, which are our big two U.S. factories, that locomotive and that train could literally be sitting there for days, maybe sometimes weeks if it's a really remote place, before the part gets shipped. Why? Because you can't have billions of dollars of parts all over the world if it's a rare part. So all I'm saying is someday maybe there's a microfactory there where the file is digitally transmitted, and that damn thing could be a couple hours away any place in the world, because we've got 50 microfactories around the world. So there's lots of ways you can go. Clearly mass customizations is one of them, but the idea of rapidly prototyping through multiple generations to get to the next generation and then localizing it, that's part of why we think this is such a huge revolution.
And with the power of the crowd, just to put numbers around it, because we didn't do it before, if you look at Tesla or Fisker, you may be familiar with, that recently was sold after it was bankrupt. They put in about between $1 billion and $1.5 billion into developing one vehicle. One of those companies got a car on the road, the other one didn't. Our first vehicle we put in just under $13 million, and it took us 18 months, and it took those guys about 4 years. And that's not putting those companies down, because especially Tesla's great, and there were really bright people at Fisker. It's that when you have so many great minds, or you have 60,000 people focusing on a problem, the bugs are shallow, as Bill Joy would say.
All right, next question right here.
So a question about intellectual property. How do you handle that? Because you're crowdsourcing, and I am an obscure PhD student in Asia who's just about to reduce the weight of your...
We literally gave him his check yesterday at a ceremony like this in Jakarta.
Oh, wow.
Couple of ways. We should probably both answer it. So our experience is about half a dozen or so of these crowdsourcing challenges that I've done. We've called them Quest or Open Innovation Challenges, and I will tell you that where we are so far in intellectual property is it's opt-in. Should you join the challenge, you agree to our rules. Should we decide to take your, in this case, engineering diagrams and say, congratulations, you've won, and you check and say, yes, I accept that I've won, I will take your check, and you then have my diagrams. So that's what we've done. So the prize money was published, and it's a one-time transaction, and you can go look this up. So we paid this gentleman $7,000 to get the jet engine design, the jet engine bracket design. You know what? In a few years, we hopefully will save millions of dollars on that, maybe tens of millions of dollars. But it's going to take us several years and millions of dollars of testing and FAA certification to ever get it out the door. So you got to kind of put this together, and I think it's rapidly evolving, but we're going to all see where it goes. And you do some version of it yourself.
Yeah, so we do it several different ways. One is if we put out a challenge, we'll tell you what we're paying for the right idea, and you can decide. Like if your time's more valuable somewhere else, then don't submit. Yeah. And then if you have a product that you want help from the community getting it to market, we can do that as well, and then you can sell it through our shop, and we just take a fee for it. It's like a 2% fee. So, and then if you participate in a product we sell, like the Rally Fighter, you get paid 2% of royalties for forever of the sale of that product. So there's a couple different models. Happy to talk about any of them more specifically, but we see a lot of entrepreneurs come to us and say, I got something and it's all that in a bag of chips. And so what we say to them is, that's awesome, because that'll help everybody. Go develop a car around it, or sell it to a company. And a lot of those people come back to us because it's not easy. You know, it's think of like the batteries that are going into electric cars. Either the big companies either develop them internally or they buy one technology and they keep developing that. We know at least 8 battery companies out there that have great technology that likely will never get purchased and will likely go out of business. And they shouldn't. It's real innovation, incremental innovation. And so they come to us and they say, why don't you develop something that's a spec that we can build the battery to? You build one car that we can put any of our batteries in. You know, an open source battery management system. So there's a lot in the IP world, and even when we talk to GE and other big partners, it's speed to market is becoming as valuable or more valuable than IP. Because Steve will tell you, at least in the appliance division, or Korea can reverse engineer something overnight, right?
6 months.
6 months. So that's your IP protection.
Yeah.
And you're really protecting.
One of the reasons we're into this, and one of the reasons we're doing appliances right now, is traditionally, going back 50 years, it takes about 7 years to completely recycle come up with a totally new appliance line.
Wow.
Okay, and now the Koreans have come in the last 10 years, and in 6 months, they're turning around. So they took what they did for phones and consumer electronics and said, we're going to start doing that. We're going to start moving upstream. So we either innovate or we're not going to be in the appliance business.
That's not just GE.
So it's not just
that's playing out everywhere.
It's the world, and things like IP protection, speed to market, all these things are playing out. And I don't know, one of the phrases we like to use internally is like disrupt or be disrupted. Okay, it's happening. Of course, it's not just us; it's the world. So we've got to get into it, and we're going to all see where it goes.
And you may or may not have a patentable technology, but I would guarantee that most people who do. Over in the coming years, you're going to, if you don't, the time it takes you to get through that process, you may or may lose your opportunity, just given how fast things are being developed. It depends on what industry, of course, but there's certain industries where it makes a lot more sense.
Okay, that's great. How's everybody feeling? Good? Warm?
It's warm in here.
This is like something in a garage.
This is light.
Right? All right, so thank you both very much. I really appreciate it, sharing your knowledge here. Let's hear it for Justin.